Hey, welcome or welcome back to 4F Beauty. When will I be YouTube famous? I still don't know. What I do know is that my ladies of the Beauty YouTuber Growth Group are listed as ever in my description box. And once you've watched this film, it'd be awesome if you would pop over and check out some of their latest films. But this film today, you will have read the title, you know exactly what it is we're reviewing, but I'll show you it anyway. It is the Winky Lux Cashmere Kitten eyeshadow palette. So, if you want to see exactly which shades I used in here to produce this look, my friends, you are in precisely the right place. Grab a drink, grab a snack. Here comes the tutorial. Hey, welcome back from the intro. I would have shown you this in the intro. This is the Winky Lux Cashmere Kitten palette. You're going to be really surprised when I open this, because I know you're used to seeing beautiful bright colours or very rich deep colours, and very rarely do you find a neutral palette. However, I have got the Winky Lux Latte Bronzer, which smells like freshly ground espresso, which I adore. They have got a matching palette, but obviously being coffee beans, it's all warm browns, which, even though it smells like coffee, couldn't bring myself to buy it. But I saw this. I was hoping, I will admit, for lilacs and stuff. Yet my nail's still growing out from where I ripped it off. It's doing very well. Hopefully at my next nail appointment we should be able to bung a tip on it, and then I won't have to keep wearing these little things all the time. But for now, I was hoping for lilacs and greens and stuff. But then when you opened it, it's actually very neutral. But if you look, although the bottom row is quite warm toned, the rest of it is quite cool toned, which is what I like. Now, annoyingly, they give you the names of the shades on the back of the palette, and they give you the names of the shades on the back of the box, but not under the shades. So what I'm probably going to do is cut that panel out and stick it up here at some point to save keeping all these cartons. I love the fact that it's cardboard again, partly because it's better for the environment, but also because if you drop it, the cardboard seems to, not that I'm suggesting you drop your palettes, but if you do drop them, I know that palettes with cardboard tend to survive better than palettes in plastic. It seems to absorb the shock better. So, let's get you zoomed in and let's put some of this on these. How's your day been today? I hope it's been a good one. If you're at the start of your day, I hope it's going to be a good one. Right, my face is washed, moisturised, SPF'd, and it is primed with my usual antiperspirant face primer. I have got a video about that if you want more details. If I remember, I'll link it below. If not, it's in mini tutorials playlist. Now, when I look straight ahead, all I've got on my eyes is Revolution Conceal and Define in C1, which I've set with my Coty Spun. Completely forgot the name of the powder. I'm having a bad pain day. My fibro is off the scale. I may forget entire words or lose track in the middle of a sentence. You have been warned. Right, when I look straight ahead, you can see all of my mobile eyelid from inner corner to to outside, so I don't have a hooded lid. I do have very deep set eyes where if I do this and then close my eye, if I do it on the eye I can actually see with. If I do this and then close my eye, you can see I've got about the same amount of skin again that folds back in. So I do have the issue of shimmers transferring onto the upper lid in a similar way to people with hooded eyes have. But because I only see it when my eyes are closed, it really doesn't bother me. When my eyes are open, you don't really notice it. So if it does bother you, just use a glitter glue when you put your shimmers on your lid. But if you don't see all of your mobile lid, you either have a half or a full hooded lid, or what's known as an Asian or a mono eyelid. You can still follow my tutorials. If you get yourself a flat topped brush, something like this, and with the first colour, with your eye open, just sketch out where you need your crease to fall. Now obviously that will reduce the amount of space between your crease and your brow. So I'll show you these because I need to go and wash them. So I'm not going to be using these ones today, but they are a very, very good example of brush types. Now I normally start off with a very, very fluffy brush, similar to this with a very big head on it, because it really helps to blow the colour out quite quickly. And then I tend to move down to something more tapered like this. If you've not got much space here, either because you have low eyebrows or because you've had to raise your crease, initially raise your eyebrows. You'd be amazed how much space that does actually give you. If that doesn't give you enough, then don't start with this brush. When I'm starting with this and moving to this, you need to start with this and then move down to something like this, which, although it looks like a pencil brush, you can see it's pencil brushes are very densely packed. This is not. This is still very loose. This is a tapered crease brush. This one is Coastal Scents, but a lot of different companies do them. And you can see it comes up right to a point. So it just does make it that little bit easier when you are blending, if you have a smaller area. Now, I'm actually trying out some new brushes for me today. I picked up a set when Beauty Bay had their Black Friday offers on. I picked up a set. It's got face brushes as well, but I'm just having a look at the eye brushes at the moment. This was a set from BH Cosmetics, and I really like it because it comes out, because I always hold the brushes right at the very end so that I put as little pressure on my eye as possible. So I like this because it's got a thicker bit at the end to hold on to. And these are the eye brushes from that set, so I'm just working out which ones I want to use today. And I think I will start off with this one, and then I might use those ones. Right. Should we put some colour on these lids? Now, with my fibro, I don't blend very quickly, which is great if you're just learning because you can follow step by step and you can keep up with me all the way through the tutorial. If, however, you are faster than I am at blending, by all means speed me up. There's 3 dots somewhere, they're either up here or down there, depending on whether you're watching on a laptop or a tablet or a phone, and you can click those and it gives you the option of changing not just the resolution but also the playback speed. That won't work if you're streaming me to a TV, I don't think, but if you're watching on a laptop or a mobile or a tablet, just speed me up. Please don't complain that I take too long to do my tutorials. I want everybody of all abilities to be able to follow along. Now, I'm just going to put some swatches up here that I did of them. So from left to right, we've got holographic biscuits, which is barely holographic, you can hardly see it against my skin. Breading, Meow Down, Cataday, Penelope, Prowl, Insta Famous, grumpy and frisky. And back to me. Hello. Right, now because there is a shade in here that is very close to my skin tone or a couple of shades lighter, if you've got a shade, a matte shade in a palette which is your skin tone or a little bit lighter, it's always a good idea to start off with that shade. Even though I've set my concealer anyway, it's always a good idea just to run that particular shade over your lid from brow to lashes, because sorry, because powders from the same palette do blend best on themselves. So it just gives you a little added boost when it's time to blend. It's not necessary, and if your palette doesn't have one that matches your skin tone, then don't worry, so long as you've set your concealer, or if you use a primer. I don't use a primer on my eyes, simply because, to be quite honest, although I've got combo oily skin, and I do get a bit of oil on my eyelids, but I've tried using eyeshadow primers this side and concealer this side. There's absolutely no difference throughout the day. Right, now I'm going in with this middle row, these cool tones. I'm literally doing 1, 2, 3. Alright, so I'm going to start off with Cat a Day, then move on to Penelope, and then Prowl. So, going to Cat a Day, and we're going to start off. Got my colour switch here for tapping off into and for changing colours. If you haven't got that, you can just use a microfiber cloth or a tea towel or a kitchen roll. Anything will do. Alright, so I'm going to start off on the outside edge here, and I'm going to follow the shape of my eye socket. If you've had to lay a crease line down, follow that. I'm just going to windscreen wiper backwards and forwards, like so, just to lay the first bit of colour down. Now if you get a kick up in the pan, don't panic, because you can just pick that up when you go back in to do the next bit. So we're now going to do little tiny circles. We're going to start off keeping the bristles in contact with this line we've laid down. Again, starting from the outer edge, we're going to do very tiny, very light pressure, little circles into the middle. Then without taking the brush off your skin, go up a wee bit, reverse the direction and come back again. And if you're like me and you've got deep set eyes, you've got a lot of space to play with, you can probably go up again and go back to the original direction and come back across. Now, I like to leave 4 or 5 mils, or about a brush width. I was going to use this one, but obviously they're thicker at the end, so about a brush width from the lowest part of my brow so that the brow highlight is more obvious. And also I just find that by stopping it below the brow, it gives you a more updated look. Carrying the colour right up to the brow is very, very 80s and 90s. So now, I very often struggle with getting pigment to stay here and here because of creasing. So I normally add just a little bit of extra work, just pick up a little bit extra pigment. And if you've got anywhere, all we're doing at the moment is making sure we've got an even tone all the way across. So if you've got anywhere that you think needs a little bit of a top up, well, you just go back in and you add a little bit more to it. Once you're happy, we're then going to, without putting any extra pigment on the brush, we're going to go back to our windscreen wipers, but we're going to do very small ones, okay? And we're going to do very small, just up and down, just to make sure we're blending it out properly. The reason we're doing all of this is because I've lost about 10, 11 stone over the last few years. So the skin on my eyelids is loose. I'm also 44, so I have the issue that the skin on my eyelids is quite loose. Now you can see my skin's actually starting to go a bit red there because it's a bad fibro day and I'm suffering with pain. But you just keep buffing, and by doing the different movements, by doing a mixture of circles and windscreen wipers, it gently moves the skin on your eye around. That's why we reverse the direction as well. And then it makes sure that every part of your eye is covered. So I'm going to go and get a drink because my voice is annoying me, let alone if it's annoying you. You won't notice a thing because I will be back in the world of YouTube instantly. Right, hopefully I can stop barking at you now. Barking when I'm doing a cat palette is not a good idea, is it really? The sun keeps coming in and out from behind the clouds, so you may find my white balance on my camera goes up and down a bit, so I'm sorry about that. But now what we're going to do is we're going to repeat what we've done here over this side. So we're still in Cat a Day. We're going to start off just windscreen wipering backwards and forwards. Now you've noticed that I've closed this eye but I didn't close the other one. There is a reason for that. I'm blind in this eye. So if I close this one, not a lot of makeup happens. But by doing it this way, I can show you two different methods of application. Alright. Now the problem that I do have is because my eye got pulled around a lot when I was like 5 or 6 at the ophthalmic, I've got quite deep permanent creasing here. And you can see it leaves me with like tiger stripes or like barcoding. And unfortunately, doing the little circles doesn't always get that out. I have to gently pull the eyelid taut and without adding any extra, just blending the pigment that I've laid down. I kind of have to do very, very tiny circles just on that bit, just to blend that out. Now, do not pull your eyelid like this. Try doing the circles first. If you've got deep creases like I have and the circles don't work, then very, very gently hold your lid out like I did just then. But you don't want to do that if you don't have to, otherwise you will end up with creases like this, and I can assure you they will only get worse. Right. So I've picked up the Kick Up and I'm going to do little circular movements, again keeping the bristles in contact with that line to start with, and then raising them up a little bit, reversing direction and coming back again, and then again I can go up a third time and do a third row and just come back along, leaving my little gap here, and pick up some of the Kick Up and just pop a little bit of that pigment onto the areas that I struggle with because of creasing, just to get that built back up again. And once I'm happy that the depth of colour on this side matches the depth of colour on that eye, I'm going to do the little windscreen wipers just up and down, overlapping ever so gently, just to make sure we've not got any areas that we've missed and that we haven't kissed with pigment. Okay. I really like that. I mean, you could quite easily just do this, stick a shimmer on your lid and head out the door, but I'm playing with a new palette. So, using exactly the same brush, I'm going to go into Penelope, which is the grey mauve. This one has a lot more Kick Up than the first one did. Just show you the pan. This one here. But as I said, it's not an issue because I can go back in and pick some of that Kick Up, so it won't get wasted. Now, we're starting off exactly the same as we did before with our windscreen wiper. So I'm just going to lay that through the crease, or wherever your crease needs to be. But the difference we're going to do this time, last time when we blended along, we lifted up and we came back. We're still going to change direction and we're still going to come back again, but we're going to keep those bristles in contact with this line that we've just laid down. Let me show you what I mean. So we're going to have little tiny circles across to the middle, and then without raising the brush up, we're going to reverse the direction and come back again. So you can see we're strengthening the colour, and we can do this quite a few times to make sure we've got it blended. We're strengthening this second colour that we've put down, but we can still see the first colour above it. Hopefully you can see the difference between the two eyes there. Now, cleaning all the colour, all the pigment off the brush, so you can see there's no pigment coming off of that brush at all. I'm going to go back into Cat A Day, the first colour, and just pick up a little bit of that one. I'm trying to show you a grey shadow on grey bristles. That's a really clever idea, isn't it? So I've picked up a little bit of Cat A Day on there, and I'm just going to very gently blend just where the two colours meet, little tiny, tiny circles, as tiny as you can make them, just where those two colours meet, because this will help blend Penelope into Cat A Day without losing any of the depth of colour that we'd already put down. Okay, so you can see that now just gently fades into the grey as it goes up the eye. So, we're now going to repeat exactly what we've just done on the other eye. So again, we're going to lay our crease line down. These are blending really nicely, I do have to say that. They're not giving me any trouble with blending at all. Even my problem areas, you know, like I was saying here and here, are actually blending out really nicely. These have obviously been very, very finely milled, because I'm not having any issues with the blending at all at the moment with these colours. And I've deliberately not gone for browns, I've deliberately gone for greys and mauves, because browns and oranges are the easiest colours to create. So again, we can do little circles across, reverse the direction but without lifting the brush, come back again, and we're going to do that a couple of times just to deepen that pigment up and give us that beautiful mauvey grey over the top. And you can see, although we've packed another colour on, it has actually given the appearance of lightening what was already there. I love, 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 love when shadows blend like this. And you can see this, that's not giving me any trouble at all. So, clean all the pigment off, pick up a little bit of Cat A Day, and very, very tiny, very, very gentle, little tiny circular movements, just where Penelope meets Cat A Day, just so we don't lose any of that beautiful silver grey that we put down to start with. And you can use the back of the brush that hasn't got any pigment on just to gently help blend those two colours together. Okay, I am really liking this. Right, if you started with a smaller brush, now is the time to go down to your tapered crease brush, because I'm about to go from this brush to this one. And I'm going to go into Prowl, which is the deepest colour in this. And I'm just going to start off by just tapping some of the deeper pigment on the outer third of my mobile lid. Just really gently, just tapping that pigment on to build it up, and then giving a very, very gentle blend. Very, very gentle at this point, barely even moving the pigment around. And then pick up a bit more of that prowl on the bristles, and we're going to very gently just run that through the crease, like we did with the previous two colours. But this time when we blend, we're not going to pick up any additional pigment, and whereas before we put the lower part of the bristles in contact with the line, we're now going to keep the brush absolutely over that line. See the difference? And we're going to very, very gently, tiniest circles we can manage, just blend this line out, because all we're doing is really softening the edges of the line we've put down. We don't want to blow it up the eye because we don't want to cover that Penelope up, but we do want to increase the shadow just at this point, particularly if you've had to create a crease. We really want to give depth of shadow to the eye just here. And again, just very gentle blending just on that outer third there, just to deepen the outer edge. And if, like me, you're having issues with getting pigment to stay down, just gently tap, tap, tap to build the pigment up. So instead of blending, we're just going to tap very, very lightly, just to help smooth that pigment out. Because I have got issues. I said to you earlier, I am struggling at the moment with this area and this area. So I'm just going to very, very gently tap that pigment on to build the colour up, which, as you can see, has worked really well. This gives such a nice finishing look to the eye. So we're now going to repeat that with the other eye, but I can show you it with the eye closed. So we're going to start off just by very gently tapping that colour on the outer third of the eye and giving a very, very gentle blend. Very, very gentle, barely even touching the skin of the brush. And then run that through the crease, just like we did the previous two colours. Remember, deeper colours, because they have more pigment in them, do tend to take a little bit more blending than lighter colours. That's true regardless of the colour you're using. If you've got a really deep chocolate brown, although browns are the easiest colours to create and to blend, you will have to spend more time blending out a chocolate brown than you would do a light stone colour. Alright, so again we're just very gently just softening the edges of that deeper line that we put down. Very, very gently just softening those edges, and then just making sure we've got that darker outer third here. I always get more fallout on this eye because it's looser, because it was pulled around so much when I was younger. But what we need to do, nice fluffy brush. Haven't done my base yet anyway, so it's really not an issue. If you're the sort of person who does your base first, just put down a layer of loose powder to catch any fallout. Now, I'm going to get a nice flat brush like this. I better tell you which ones I was using, hadn't I, really? Right, the big fluffy brush that I was using was a number 7. The smaller brush I was using was a number 8. And now I'm going in with a number 5, which is a nice flat brush for packing colour on. Now, I always pack shimmers on wet. I'm going to go in with this Obsession Pigment Boost. You don't have to use this, you can use a moisturising spray like MAC Fix Plus or Mario Badescu, you can use a priming spray, you can use a setting spray, you can even use clean water. What you mustn't ever do is go into a palette with a wet brush. Always go in with a dry brush and spray the brush, otherwise you are liable to get hard pan, which is where the shadow gets like a shiny film over it and it almost seals the pan and then makes it very, very difficult to pick up any colour next time you're going to use it. So I'm going to go in with Meow Down and I'm just going to pack a bit of that pigment onto this brush, like so. Again, silver pigment, grey bristles, good choice. And then we're going to wet that. Now I always make a point of drying the ferrule off, just so that there's no moisture around the base of the bristles here to loosen any glue. And we're just going to very gently apply this to the 2/3 of the lid that haven't already had any shadow put on them. Now, I didn't do a cut crease because I didn't want to lay concealer down. I wanted to see how opaque this pigment is. Will it be opaque enough to actually cover those shadows that we put down initially? And it would appear, yes it is. I mean, that is such a pretty look. Right, now I am going to take all the pigment, let's try and find a clean bit of the colour switch, there we go. I'm going to take all the pigment off of this brush and then I'm going to dry the brush on my hand to make sure when I go back in to do this eye, this brush is absolutely dry. And that's the biggest tip I can give you. The only time you should use a wet brush is if you're going into a loose pigment. If you're going into a packed pigment in a palette, please don't ever go in with a wet brush. You will end up ruining that shadow. Now with this eye I do have to very, very gently pull that out. Otherwise it ends up clumping up on the creases and then I get fallout during the day. No, I don't want fallout during the day. I might just carry this pigment out a little bit further this side. And I'm going to gently just buff, just with my fingers. I could go with the brush again if I wanted to, but just buff gently with my fingers where those two shadows meet to soften the look. I really like that. Right, I'm going to go off camera and do my foundation, etc. And I will be back to finish off this look. I will be back in an instant. Tell me if you miss me. If you heard that bike, that was not 30 miles an hour. Right, back in a mo. Hey, I'm back. As you can see, face is done, so let's zoom in and finish off the eyes. when I say face is done, I haven't done highlight yet, obviously, because I do that last. Right, going back in with the number 5 brush that we used to pack that shade on, I am going to go into, I think I'll go into Penelope, which is the pinky one. I'm going to very gently, pinky mauve, just smudge that along that lower lash line, going about 2/3 of the way along. I always flinch this side because obviously no peripheral vision, so I have to rely on mirror and muscle memory not to poke myself in the eye. And I'm sure regular viewers can attest to how many times I fail and poke myself in the eye. Clean the colour off of that, and then go back in with the number 8, and I'm going to pick up some of Day, which is the lighter of the greys that we used, and very, very gently buff all the way along that lower lash line, just to really soften that mauve that we've put down. I must admit, I'm really liking this palette so far. I know technically I've only used, 5 shades including the white, but I am liking this. Because for a neutral palette, it's still giving me quite a nice look. Right, now I'm going to go in with the number 10 brush, and I'm going to use Wet n Wild highlight that again I picked up during the sale on Beauty Bay, and this is White Raven. I think it was from their Goth collection because it has got the skull on it, but you can see it's got that purpley shift to it. So white base with a purpley shift, and I just thought that would go really nicely with the colour scheme that I have chosen for today. So we pop a little bit on her in a corner. Just helps brighten the eye up and give it a more youthful look. And then we'll add a little bit just under the tail of the brow, up here, just to give the brow an illusion of height. And if you're like me, where you've got very, very straight brows and you've had to pluck them to give you any semblance of a curve, this will of course help to emphasise that and give the illusion of a more curved brow. Now, zoom you out a little bit, and by a little bit I of course mean a lot, and I'm going to pick up this is my Zoeva, I should know this by now, 105 Lux highlighting brush, and I'm going to pop a little bit of this down the nose, like so, and a bit on the top lip, and the chin, and then my favourite part, the cheek. For a Wet n Wild highlight, this is actually quite subtle compared to some of those, but it is quite nice. I mean, Blossom Glow that I've got gives a much greater impact than this one does, much more impactful on the cheek. But if you want a slightly more subtle glow, and let's face it, not everybody wants to rock a purple shifting highlight, not everyone's as nuts as I am. It can give you quite a nice subtle finish, but you know me, I have Tin Man aesthetic, which basically means if I can't be seen from space, I'm not wearing enough highlight. So we're just gonna pop a wee bit more, and by a wee bit I do of course mean a shed load. Oh, actually that builds up really quickly, a lot quicker than I was expecting. Not that I'm complaining though. Happy. Right, I'm going to go off camera, bung some mascara on, do something with my hair, stick some lippy on. I'll be back for my final thoughts on that palette. Hey, I'm back. The lippy is actually one of these Fenty lipsticks. This is one of their, what do they call it? Multi-dimensional shimmer dual chrome intensity in shade Gravity. Now, I bought two. I bought this one and I bought one of her lipsticks. Hair's having a bad day again. I was really disappointed with how little you get. My fault, I didn't actually check to see the actual weight. In this, you get 1.3 grams. Winky Lux, 4 grams. Wet n Wild, 3.6. Jeffrey, 3.4. So this is effectively less than half what you would normally get in a stick lipstick. Now I've worn this twice, and that's how much there is left. Now I bought this, oh there you go, you can see there exactly how much I've used. So you can see this wasn't that much longer to start with. I bought this at the same time that I bought the one of her Mademoiselles, the orange one. Would I buy any more of them? No, to be quite honest. I don't like paying effectively twice as much, because this in the UK is the same price to buy as this or this, which makes this effectively a £36 lipstick, because to get the same amount that you've got in either of these, you have to buy two of them. So these are my most expensive lipsticks by weight. Anyway, I'm not talking about the lipstick, I'm talking about the palette. Right, so what do I think of the Winky Lux Cashmere Kitten palette? Well, now obviously I've used the light shade, the middle row, and this one here. So I haven't used any of the warmer tones, but cooler tones generally are more difficult to create. And I think you can agree, this has actually produced a really nice finished look. I mean, if you put a matte shade on the lid instead of a shimmer, you could easily get away with this at work with a nude lip. Cashmere's a good name for it because they are so soft. When I swatched them, they felt super soft. and you saw exactly how easy they were to blend out. Didn't have to do very much blending with them at all, to be quite honest. So I'm actually really very impressed with those. Very impressed indeed. So, do I recommend you buy it? If you like the colours, yeah, don't see why not. I'm really enjoying that. Obviously, I'm going to continue to use it. I'll try the warmer shades as well. But if the cooler ones have gone like this, I don't see any reason that the warm ones shouldn't be just as pretty. Right? I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, it'd be awesome if you could hit that like button, comment, share, subscribe. When you subscribe, don't forget to ring my bell, and choose all notifications so that you get told every time I upload another one of these videos. And talking of another one of these videos, I've got an awful lot uploaded now that you can watch. Why don't you pop over and see if you've missed any recent ones, because let's face it, YouTube are terrible for recommending my films to anybody. And once you finish watching my films, as ever, the ladies of the Beauty YouTuber Growth Group are listed in my description box, and I'm sure they will be delighted to welcome you into their families, the same way that you have been welcomed into mine here at 4F Beauty. Right, all that remains for me to say, as ever, is you'll stay fabulous, and I'll see you again next time. Bye for now.